Hello again and welcome back to our course on PSE 15. By now I hope that you've either got your catalogue or catalogue set up, or at least you're giving that some more thought. In this section I'm going to look at the media browser and at the view you're looking at the moment, in particular the adaptive grid view. If you've used a recent version of PSE, and adaptive grid was introduced I believe in PSE 13, you can probably skip this section. I've already mentioned the difference between Media Browser and Adaptive Grid before, and with Adaptive Grid PSE does a very clever job of squeezing up the images to fit into as little space as possible, so we have minimal space between the images. It's a sort of modern type of contact sheet really, as is the standard what I will call the Media Browser view. And don't forget to go back to that. If you click on the View menu and click on Details, you'll be back into Media Browser view. You can use the zoom control with either, and of course each of us has our own preferred setting for zoom when looking at the media browser. Something else that I mentioned briefly before was the ability to filter what you can see in the media browser. We've already seen a couple of examples. We can filter by media type using the option on the View menu, or we can filter by shot date, or more specifically by folder, by clicking on one of the folders on the left, and having clicked on a particular date, to go back to see everything we click on All Media again. There are a number of other ways that we can filter what we see, and throughout the course we're going to see additional ones, but let me just tell you about a couple of others here. Now you may have noticed these sets of stars under each of the media browser thumbnails, and in fact this is a very good way of rating images. So for instance, if I wanted to rate that image, say as a 4-star image, click on 4 stars. Let's suppose I want to rate this picture of a horse here as 4 stars as well, and maybe I want to rate that image there. That's one of my better ones. Let's make that a 5-star image. If I then wanted to filter on rating, I could use the ratings filter up here on the right. So for instance, if I only wanted to see ratings that are greater or equal to 4-star, click on 4 stars there and I'll see those 3 images. Once again, if I click on 5 stars, that will only show me the 5-star image. If I click on 5-star again, it clears the star rating filter. And another very useful filter is date range. If you go to the View menu, towards the bottom you can see Set Date Range. And rather than based on single shot dates based on folders, as on the left there, I can set a date range. Let's say, which pictures did I take between the 1st of June 2016 and the 31st of October 2016. Click on OK, and it was those ones. And again, if I go back to the View menu, there is an option there, Clear Date Range. And something else to bear in mind when you're using the media browser is that there are quite a few things that you can do with multiple selections. So for instance, let's suppose that I want to make some of my images 3-star images. Let me select those now. I'm going to say that's a 3-star. Hold the control key down. That's a 3-star. And that is that one, and say that one. I've got about half a dozen selected. If I go to any one of those and click on 3 stars, the 3-star rating is applied to all of the images that I had selected. And then of course I can click on any one of them again without the control key held down to deselect. You've already seen how to zoom into a single image using the zoom control. Another way of doing that is to double click. So if I double click on that 5-star picture, it's now shown in that much bigger size, and I can click underneath to add a caption. When I've added the caption, hit the enter key, and that image now has a caption. If I return to grid view by clicking on grid, you don't see the caption here, but in any situation where captions can be seen, that caption will now appear. And with that image selected, if I click on keyword info, of course the caption appears here under general information, and this is another location where I can enter or change a caption, or enter or change a rating. Another feature of the standard media browser view and the adaptive grid view is these little icons, and I mentioned one or two of these before. This particular one, which appears on the image which I edited of Glastonbury Tor in Somerset in the UK, this one indicates a version set, and you may remember me explaining before that when you edit an image, a copy of it can be saved as a version set with the original. In fact, if you look at this little arrow down here, if I click on the little arrow, you can also see the original. So I've effectively opened a version set so that you can see the latest version and the version that we started with, and any in between if you so wish. I will be explaining version sets in detail later on in the course. But it's very useful to know what all those little icons mean. And in fact, apart from the fact you can look them up in the help system, the Organizer PDF explains those icons to you. Let's take a quick look at that now. And there you can see a section in the Organizer PDF, Media View Icons, and that lists the icons, shows you what each of them looks like, and gives a brief explanation of what each one means. So there's just a couple of other things to mention before we move on. One of them is that you should make yourself familiar with what's on the right-click menu, the contextual menu for an image. For instance, if I right-click on this image that I intend to delete, it seems to have a bit of my thumb in front of it, which is not that unusual. One of the options is delete from catalogue, and as you'll remember earlier, I also have the option of deleting the selected item from the hard disk as well. If you look at the other options on that right-click menu, they include things like Add Caption, where you can enter a caption using this little Add Caption dialog. You can apply a rating. You can add a person. We'll be talking about people later. You can identify one or more of the people in images. So it's worth making yourself familiar with what's on this menu. We'll be covering virtually everything on this menu during the course. Right at the bottom, Show File Info brings up the keyword info tag panel on the right. So that's an alternative way of seeing that. And of course, one of the things that happens quite a lot with PSE is that having captured some images, you'll go to an image and you'll want to do some work on it, either in the organizer or in the editor. But don't forget that particularly as you start to build up a large number of images in the organizer, you really need to make yourself familiar with the operations that you can perform on images as you capture them. You will encounter several operations that you can perform in bulk as you capture images throughout the course. Make sure you're familiar with these because they can save you an awful lot of time. One very last point here, although this isn't strictly restricted to the media browser, we've seen that with the media browser we optionally have the Albums and Folders panel on the left, Keyword and Info panel on the right. You can resize these panels to change the split of space. So if you want to see a bit more media browser and a bit less panel, all you have to do is hover over the vertical divider until you get that icon with the left and right pointing arrows and the vertical double bar. Click with the mouse and then you can drag that divider right and left. Similarly over here, same thing you can do with the Albums and Folders panel. That's pretty much universal in the PSE workspaces. That's it for this section. I'll see you in the next one.